Hello, my name is Gabe, and welcome to Hold That Thought, the companion show to everything else we make here. Now, today's video is about how to handle death, mental health, and other serious issues in stories. Normally, I make some big show of starting the video talking about the last book I reviewed and tying it into the big conclusion later on. But this subject is, I felt, too serious of a subject to put any pretense over it. So today we're just going to be talking about how to handle serious issues. Now, before we begin, I want to state, for the record, I am by no means the authority in the subject. This is a good starting point for the conversation, and what I'm going to, and the rules and guidelines I'm going to bring up are worth starting into. But please do not stop the conversation at what I say here. I must insist. Ultimately, the people with the most authority are the people affected by whatever issues are being talked about. Whatever I say about mental health here ultimately means nothing compared to what someone with actual mental health issues has to say on the subject. The same with race, sexuality, religion, gender, and whatever else is the subject of discussion. Please, above all else, take the people impacted as the final word. These are general guidelines, but I will reiterate one more time because it's extremely important. They're just that. General guidelines. What's more important is what people actually involved with the issues up for discussion have to say about it. Thank you. With that being said, how? There are 2 points of discussion here. How does one discuss these things in a serious nature, and how should we approach it when it comes to humor? And that is, of course, a huge discussion, worth having. So, I'm going to start with discussing it seriously. The first question that obviously pops into mind is, should we discuss it at all? And the answer I'm generally going to lean towards is yes. Serious issues should be discussed. We should include them in stories. It helps normalize them more than anything else. These are things you're going to encounter. You shouldn't be afraid, angry, or in some people's cases, some mixture of the two that results in horrible things happening. You should be accepting and understanding. That is the moral thing we should foster. But with that being said, we come to another question. How should we go about discussing them? The first point I would like to raise, and you can bear with me on it or you cannot, is do your research. This is probably the foremost important. Make sure before you decide to include an issue in your work, you understand as much about it as you can. This is probably a difficult ask for some, but if you've decided that you want to include something in your work, make sure you know about it. Make sure you know what it actually does and how it actually affects people. Not only is it a due diligence that is generally polite, it makes for more interesting and relatable stories in the first place. If I want to give you an example of what not to do, check out one of the books I've reviewed earlier on this channel, The Fox. The book has an autistic character, but seems to understand nothing of autism. Okay, number 2. This generally only applies to the mental health and other such subjects, or race, or anything else, not necessarily the death portion, though it can to someone in mourning, make sure that the issue being discussed is not the only thing of which the character can relate to, or of which applies to the character in question. Look, I'm going to be blunt. Black people aren't just black people. Women aren't just women. LGBTQ plus people aren't just LGBTQ plus. They've got more character than that. The very least you can do is show that. And I would give you guidelines on how to do so, but generally speaking, same way you write any other character. Give them some nuance. And now, the third rule. Probably the most obvious seeming. I do mean seeming. But most important, treat it with bloody respect, man. Whatever issues you're dealing with in your story, treat them with respect. Now, what does that mean? It means don't make it out like any one of a certain group of minorities is evil or anything like that, or in any way lesser human beings. If someone is autistic, don't take that to mean that they're worthless human beings. Same with any other mental health condition, or race, or creed, or whatever else. Just treat them with respect as you write them. Now, we get to the muddy waters. Comedy. Ultimately, everything I said before still applies. But now, I get to some extra points of mention. The best way to explain it is, in a comedy, the punchline shouldn't be someone's race, creed, or any other serious topics that might surround a character. You can have an autistic character be the comedic relief, or just be a funny character in your thing. The punchline just shouldn't be they're autistic. Same with PTSD and anything else. The punchline should be something else, not that that character is got some mental illness or someone died or anything like that. And that's really what it boils down to when it comes to comedy and everything here. Respect. But before I leave the comedy train, one more thing of note. Before I hear from the "it's a joke" crowd, I want to be clear of something. If you have to explain your joke for me to know it's a joke, odds are the people who this matters to aren't going to know it's a joke either. And that means people will act accordingly, which isn't great. And that's, I guess, it was more about mental health than anything else, but either way, that's this serious topics video. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it helpful, insightful. Maybe there's something you want to yell at me about because I messed up. If so, I welcome it in the comments below. If you like this video and want to see more like it, but maybe on the lighter side of topics, leave a like and subscribe. But more importantly than any of that, have a good night.